Hi guys, welcome to Sim UK. You've come to see a review of MX vs ATV All Out. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. MX vs ATV is a long-running arcade series from THQ and Rainbow Studios. They've recently joined up with Nordic, and now we have MX vs ATV All Out. Nordic have recently taken over the Wreckfest series, or game if you will, and they did a pretty good job there. They turned a game that wasn't really hitting expectations, and they tweaked it here and there, and they definitely made it better. I think it could be better still, but they did enough to make the game worthy of playing. So as a result, I have relatively high hopes for MX vs ATV All Out. Unfortunately, and this is the quick review, on PC at £35, this isn't exactly a terrible game, as it does have some really good bits, but it also has some really bad bits at the moment. If you're on console, however, and PS4 especially, this is something of a disaster area and should be avoided, especially for the time being. I never ever start a review by pointing out the bugs of a game, but with this game, that's what I'm going to have to do. When I first loaded it onto my PC, I had the green stripes of death. I can't capture this on my video capture screen, so I can't show you what it looks like, but those of you who have experienced this will know exactly what I'm talking about. Apparently this is a conflict between my GTX 970 and the Unreal Engine. There's no solution to it, but I did find two ways to get it to work on my PC at least. Method 1 is to drop the graphics down from epic to high, and method 2 was to press Alt and Enter, which basically takes the game into full screen. Both of these seem to work every single time, and at least with the Alt Enter technique, you get to play the game with epic graphics. At release, and even a week after release, online multiplayer is completely broken. It doesn't work at all. This is obviously going to get fixed in a patch, but as we are at the moment, this doesn't work on console or PC. It's an absolute disaster. Worse than that, some might say, is that in offline or single player mode, the game is riddled with bugs and performance issues across the board. That being said, in my humble opinion, the majority of issues here are related to console players and not so much those on the PC. On the PC it seems far more stable, the FPS is up into 170 at times, and at the lowest I've seen it when there's a lot of things on screen at one time is only down to 50. So for the PC users with a decent graphics card, I think you're going to be okay in that regard. Let's move on to the gameplay, shall we? You will start the game in the dirt track area and on a 125 motocross bike. Here you can mess about, do tutorials where you'll learn the handling and the techniques for each discipline. The tutorials are very detailed and fully comprehensive. They give you lots of time and encouragement to go and really try this stuff out. It's pretty darn good, I have to say. The tricks are quite impressive and they're varied, they're easy to perform and they look good, but they are somewhat limited in comparison to previous releases. There are some interesting camera angles available to you. I personally settled on first person. I got a good feel for the bike. I felt like I knew where the wheels were, and this was despite the uncontrolled and unsolicited head movement. The only issue with that is when you're doing a backflip, your head is naturally going to flick back in order to find the ground before the ground finds you, for want of a better way of putting it. The head was tilting back a little bit too early, thereby losing sight of the handlebars and just making me feel like I didn't know where the flipping floor was. So it needs a bit of tweaking, but overall it's pretty good. There's also a camera snapshot feature available, but there's no video replay, so if you're pulling off some gnarly stunts in first person view, you're never going to see it, and that is a big disappointment. If we're going to discuss physics, then we also need to discuss collisions. And collisions in this game are not exactly realistic. You can get away with an awful lot, but you can't get away with everything. It's like semi-realistic here. There certainly is an element of skill to this game, but I feel that this skill level is more about learning the game rather than being a good motocross rider. The ragdoll effects at times are hilarious, but nothing more. There's nothing special here. And should you fall off the bike, there is an option to press the B button and get up faster. Now, I've got to be honest, I really hate this feature. I don't even understand why it's in the game. Is it supposed to simulate me being unconscious or something? I just don't see the need for it. It seems daft. The motocross bike's handling physics I felt were really, really good. They were instantly natural, they felt intuitive, they were responsive, and above all, they were fun. They gave a good sort of arcade slash realistic feel. The physics were pretty good, I felt. I was having an absolute laugh and enjoying every minute of learning how to ride this motocross bike. I felt that it was much better than Milestone's MXGP series, although even though they're both using the Unreal Engine, it doesn't look as good as MXGP 3. I don't know whether MX vs ATV is using the Unreal 4 engine or the Unreal 2 engine. The game even has a clutch, kind of. It's more like a boost button than a clutch, but technically I suppose it is a clutch. And there's a distinct lack of weight that I noticed. It's not too bad with the MX bikes, but you'll notice it everywhere else. There's also some ground deformation, but it's not everywhere. In fact, it's hardly anywhere, and it's noticeably missing on the Supercross tracks. The AI are hilariously out of control. They're like super over-enthusiastic lunatics. They shouldn't be allowed on the track. They're even more likely to miss a corner and come flying across the track than you are. They'll take you out, plus any other fellow AI riders that they happen to hit. Also, if they hit obstacles, they'll drag them onto the track as well. It's a lot of fun, and the majority of the time it's just really, really funny. There are absolutely no branded vehicles in this game whatsoever. They're all fictitious. They might be based on real-life models in some way or other, but they are all completely made up. That being said, there are a number of events available. There are 37 series events to participate in. These consist of multi-race, discipline and vehicle combinations. There's a number of single events. This includes Supercross, National, Opencross, Waypoint, Freestyle and Freeride. I really, really like the Waypoint experiences. Basically, you ride from one waypoint to another successively until you reach the end one. I had a lot of fun doing this. I especially like the different track types and the different biomes and the techniques required in order to master each one. Freeride allows unlimited access to any track or biome, and the Freestyle was also a lot of fun as well, I have to say. Online multiplayer completely does not work at release, so I cannot review this. Basically, it's a feature that doesn't exist in this game. Then there's time trial events. This allows you to race across all of the 40 tracks available, all of which I believe to be fictitious, but please correct me in the comments if I am wrong on that point. And it's just basically trying to beat your fastest time. Then they have something called arcade mode, better described as being a local multiplayer mode. It splits the screen vertically, not horizontally, and to be honest, I'm not a big fan of that at the moment. The loading times between events are long, but they're okay. I think you'll find on console that time is extended and it gets a bit too much. On the PC, the FPS is okay. It does drop at times, but at a high, it's about 175, and at a low, on my system at least, we're around about 50. On console, I see that this FPS drop is far more prominent, and the graphics are noticeably worse as well. It is a console versus PC argument, you'd probably expect this. On the PC though, you do have this graphics issue which is caused by the Unreal Engine, and there's no solution for that, so that is a bit of a problem as well. Even on Epic, graphically on the PC this is, it's not wonderful by modern day terms. Things like MXGP 3 look considerably better than this does, despite running on the same engine, although it might be a different version of that engine. The vehicle modelling is okay, but despite the ground deformation in some areas, the scenery is pretty pathetic. The water splash effects look like they've been dragged straight out of the 80s, the vegetation is completely unrealistic, and like the majority of the barriers in races, nothing is actually collidable or interactive. There's not even that much dust or mud being kicked up by anything. Despite there being no branded vehicles, the motocross bike audio is pretty darn good. It's a little bit dulled down perhaps, but certainly I'd say it was okay. The game also comes with a pretty good soundtrack, and quite a lot of songs in there too. Truth be told, I find the UI to be very messy and a bit clunky. There's a lag between you pressing a button and actually seeing the UI action your command. In-game there are a lot of pop-ups and on-screen information everywhere. It gets a bit busy and it gets a bit ugly. You can turn all of this off in the menu system and it's not too bad after that. In terms of controller customization, there are a few controller combos available, but there's no button binding, so you cannot set up custom controllers easily. There is no real player creation tool either per se. Well, there kind of is, but again it's really quite messy and quite clunky. It basically consists of a bunch of pre-created characters that you can then change the style and look of. You can have male and female characters, and I have to say there are quite a lot of combos for outfits, although to me they all look pretty much the same. And I could say the same thing for the bikes and the other vehicles as well. There's only a handful to choose from at the start, and although there is extensive modification, it all just ends up looking pretty similar in the end. So to sum everything up, well, first of all, I suppose I ought to mention that some of you may have noticed that everything I've mentioned so far is about the motocross side of things, and this is absolutely deliberate. If MX vs ATV All Out had focused all their time on the MX bikes, maybe brought in some brands, improved the physics and audio a bit more, and perhaps made sure that the bugs were fixed and the FPS and online issues were resolved before release, then this would be a very well recommended realistic fun arcade game, because for 60 minutes I love this game so much. Instead, they introduced quads and the buggies, and OMG, these are bad. They are basically the MX bikes wearing a disguise. That's all they are. There's no new physics applied, there's no difference in weight or balance. And you can still manipulate the angle and trajectory of the buggies in mid-air, like you would be able to on an MX bike. It's horrible, it's horrendous, and to be perfectly frank, it's pointless. This game, I think, would be much better without them in it at all. I had so much fun playing with the MX bikes, pulling off stunts, and occasionally nailing them. It's not a sim, but at times it is realistic, and it can be a lot of fun, but it can also be terribly frustrating. It's so close to being a great game, but for all the bugs, the FPS issues, especially on console, and what has to be put down as a multiplayer catastrophe. There's also a lack of consistency in the game. Ground deformation is present, but it's hardly anywhere. Some of the tracks allow you to go wildly off track before resetting you on the track, whereas other areas of the track, if you go off for just a millisecond, it will reset you straight away. There's also no career element really, realistically. If the competition series is meant to be a career element, then it's very poorly crafted. It certainly doesn't make you feel like you're in a career, and I didn't at any time feel invested in the experience. The reward system is also terribly dated and incredibly uninspiring. Multiplayer could be a huge amount of fun, I've got to say, on PC at least, but seeing as it doesn't work, I can't really add that into the review. My suggestion to you would be, if you're on console, stay clear of this game for a while, give it time to fix itself. If you're on PC, only really invest in this game if you're desperately interested in motocross, because nothing else is worth even trying out. And this game, without multiplayer, is very much a muted experience, let's be fair. So, 3 months from now this game might be worth buying, 6 months from now it might be brilliant, but as it is today, I heartily do not recommend it. At £35, they are asking way too much, and in return they are giving way too little. I'm SimUK, thanks for watching, take care, till next time, goodbye.